Hello, I'm Bram Batu.
And I'm Sean Carbonda, and welcome to our podcast, Weekly Dose of High School, where we'll be guiding you through the life of a high school student while speaking to knowledgeable people in the industry.
Welcome to our 21st episode. In today's episode, we're here again with Shellee, a college consulting advisor who specializes in financial aid such as FAFSA and scholarships for college-bound students.
Also, if you haven't already, make sure to check out our 20th episode, which was a part one to this, where we heard Shellee talk about the entire college admission process in the lens of financial aid. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
So, Shellee, is it true that if you donate money to a college like Stanford or Harvard, you'll be more prioritized during the college application process?
That used to be the case about 10 years ago. That is not the case anymore. Ever since the college blues scandal, colleges are being micro analyzed. And so that is not giving everybody the same benefit, which is going to cause the college a lot of problems. I do have a student who did not get into a particular college and their family has their name on a coliseum. So it is not as simple as my parents went there, I'm going to get in, or my parents have donated massive money over the years, I'm a shoo-in. But we don't know what happens behind closed doors, and therefore there's no way to truly know the answer to that. I can just tell you they've really cracked down on it ever since that happened.
Can you elaborate more on the scandal that you just previously mentioned?
Well, so gosh, a couple of years back now, it was pre-COVID. Somebody, a college consultant, was promising families that he could guarantee them that he could get them into very prestigious colleges, and they paid him a ton of money. And he went as far as going into Photoshop and pretending that they were athletes and getting them in on a scholarship. And there was just a lot of unethical things going on. Colleges lost some of their brilliant coaches who made some really bad decisions. And that particular consultant is in jail, as well as several of the parents who who took part in that situation. So colleges are now very scrutinized about their college acceptances, and there's no easy way to get in the back door anymore.
I'm assuming that all the students who were accepted into that college got rejected right after.
Well, I haven't followed each and every student, so I'm not comfortable making that
Okay.
blanket statement, but you would hope so.
Yeah, and it's also fair for people who don't have that kind of money or in poor neighborhoods. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So like sticking to this topic of like ethics and like the college admission process. So how do you think it differs from like the admission process like certain regions such as like I don't know the Bay Area or the New York metropolitan area? Those students in those neighborhoods obviously have more resources and opportunities. So how do you think those students are compared to like students living in more rural areas when it comes to the college admission process?
Well, what the colleges are telling us is they're doing it in a holistic approach by student. They're not, it's not, it's not fair to compare them at the same level because they don't have the same resources. So every high school must submit a report to the college about the number of AP or IB classes they offer or don't offer. So basically, the high school is letting the college know, hey, we just don't have the resources, therefore these students cannot be held to the same standard as a private, parochial or boarding school. So there is supposed to be checks and balances in there. And I will tell you, after doing this 15 years, I've had students who are 100% need-based, and I've had students who are multimillionaires, and they've all gotten into college based on their hard work, not just their, ability or family's ability to pay.
Hmm. Got it. So like I've seen this like come up a lot. So like students who live in like more improved areas who have more resources, their like work seems to get like sometimes outshadowed and like outweighed by like other students living in the same area who've done like much more impressive work. Whereas if that same student who had somewhat of an good opportunity or had good extracurriculars did in like a more rural area, they would be able to more shine out. So how do you think this compares and like what's your stance on this?
Well, I think it all comes down to, as the students stand out or are they not? I mean, you can argue that, they didn't have the resources, but how much resources does it take to have a passion with purpose community service project to make a big difference in their community? It doesn't take resources, it takes desire. So, for everybody who wants to stand behind, we can't, I'm going to say, yes, you can. You just have to get more creative when you do it. I think every student has the same opportunities when it comes to their desire of standing out. They may not get to do awesome trips around the world or have the best tutors, but they can still show their tenacity, their determination, their focus. There's so many core values that are important to colleges. They don't just look at, the gift of having a tutor. So I believe that all students have the same opportunity. I mean, there's 13 colleges that are tuition free, but the problem is nobody wants to go to them because they're not in the best parts of the United States. So really, does it come down to everybody's fighting for the same schools? Maybe. Does it come down to, does that student use everything they can to stand out? Absolutely. So I believe that every student has the same chance to be a standout student.
Uh-huh. Got it. Thank you. So, okay, now straying away from ethics and in the college admission process, some more about the application itself. So, you all may know the QuestBridge application, which is designed for like talented low-income students. So, may you explain to our audience how the application works and how the whole matching system works and how financial aid is delivered through that?
So I could talk about that for a couple hours, but I'll give you the brief synopsis. So there are several different types of application. There's the Common App, the Coalition App, the State App, the UC app, and the private, the direct to school app. So the first thing the student has to figure out is what application is going to be used at that school. That is the first and most important thing. The second part about that is every single application does it unique. What I mean is one school may ask for 4 essays, another school may ask for 18 essays. It is truly up to the individual college on how they are going to ask that student to get through the application and essay process. So when it comes to, having opportunity, if a student is need-based, they can ask for a fee waiver directly from their school and it costs them nothing, which gives them, I believe, 5 or 7 free applications, free SAT, ACT, PSAT. All they have to do is ask for it. And of course, show proof that they are in need-based. So that balances out what people say is not a fair advantage. And then when it comes to completing the applications, colleges are looking for the holistic student. They're looking first at the GPA. Do they meet the requirements of the school? Will they be successful? And do they have the ability to be a strong student at that school? Then they look at the test scores to make sure that the test scores match the GPA. If not, they're going to dive deeper into that. Then they're going to look at, did the students serve their community and what do they learn about that student? And then they go deeper into what did they do for extracurriculars when they weren't in school? Did they stay at home and play on the Xbox, or did they go out and play a sport or visual and performing arts or getting involved? Then they're going to look at the leadership. How much leadership did that student participate in? Were they a follower or were they a leader? Then they're going to look at the quality of the letters of recommendation from the teachers and the counselor. And then finally, that essay is the icing on the cake. That is the thing that will help the student stand out on top of the application. So based on all of that, everybody has an amazing opportunity to get into any college of their dreams, because it's not truly just one part of the application that's important. It is the whole application that the student will be judged upon. So if a student has to work to put food on the table for their family, that is just as important as doing an internship or a research project in the scope of that student's application. And then it comes down to the college has to have a balanced list. So in other words, they can't have all CPA students. They can't have all finance, all pre-med, all engineering, because then the school would be very heavy weighted, and the teachers would be all, some would have a job one year and some not the next year. And then within that major, they have to balance demographics of West Coast, East Coast, Central, Southern. They have to balance, academics. They have to balance what that student brings, and also the ethnicity. There's so many things that go into it. It's not truly who's the best candidate, because of all the best candidates are applying to pre-med, they can only take a handful. They can't take all of them. Hopefully that helped.
Got it. Well said. So, so some big scholarships that come to mind include the Coca-Cola scholarship, the Gates scholarship. So, like, obviously these are very competitive scholarships. So, what are some tips and tricks that you can give to applicants that apply to these scholarships to maximize their chances of winning these scholarships?
I can speak to this. I have a student who won the Coca-Cola scholarship last year, and she was amazing. She deserved every bit of it. But did she work hard? Yes. She had 15 AP fives. Imagine that, students, 15 APs with all fives. This is the kind of student who's applying for that type of award. She had already completed 2 years of college. She took the ACT her freshman year and got a perfect 36. These students who are winning these awards are earning them. It's not given to them. She ended up getting a full ride to Vanderbilt, which was well-deserved, along with many other well-known universities. So we do encourage students to apply to them if they are going to be a strong candidate, because it is a rigorous process.
Uh-huh. So, okay, so like obviously like you mentioned that they have to work hard throughout their high school career. But like in the application itself, so like they have essays and like personal characteristics. So do you have any tips when applying directly in for the application?
Yeah, be the best version of you can be. So what is your strength? Highlight your strength, downplay your opportunities, be your own person. Don't do what everybody else is doing. If you think that tutoring is going to help you stand out, that is not going to help you stand out. So you need to think out of the box. You don't want to do what everybody else is doing, because that's not going to help you stand out. They don't want you to be anyway other than be you. They want to know who you are and why you matter. What are your core values, your gifts, your talents? What is going to help you be the change you wish to see in the world? That is what those scholarships are looking for.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
Shellee, is there really a significant difference between a legacy and a secondary legacy student? Because right now, if I apply to UPenn, I'm going to be a secondary legacy student because that's where my cousin went to. So is there really like a significant difference between those two terms?
So again, that goes behind closed doors. There's no
Oh,
statistic that's going to support any of that. I will tell you, at some schools, it plays well. Yale, oh my gosh, they love their legacies. But at other schools, they don't weigh it at all. They really don't give it any weight. So there's no guarantee. If you're overqualified and your legacy, yeah. But if you're underqualified, that's not going to be the thing to get you in.
The students who are a legacy student will be prioritized a bit more than students who apply regularly.
Not necessarily at every school.
Yeah, a few select schools.
Yeah. It just depends on how that school weights their legacy and how much they've donated.
Thank you.
So, Shellee, while still sticking to the topic of legacies and everything, since legacies tend to come up a lot, so do you think the ED pool, like the early decision pool, consists of a lot of legacy applicants? And do you think the ED application or admission rate is inflated due to the fact that a lot of legacy students and recruited athletes are applying?
That is a really good question. The best way I can answer that is early decision is typically applied to by students who can afford to pay full price. Okay, so that's number one to think about. Because they can afford to pay full price, they typically are a very qualified or overqualified candidate because they've had lots of support financially. That makes them a strong candidate. They've had opportunities. As far as legacy goes, I would say because their parents probably have the funds to pay full price and to get them to be that candidate, they probably apply more early decision. But we're talking such a small percentage that it's something I tell my students, unless you want to go there for sure 100% and pay full price, that is the only time you should apply early decision. That's it. Otherwise, be a great candidate and look at all of the schools you get accepted to. It depends. If you know exactly where you want to go and you want to pay full price, then go ED.
Mm-hmm. Well said. So my final question for you is, before we wrap up this episode, is like you mentioned how international students pay a hefty price, which colleges tend to prefer since they're a business after all. So you may have heard of like the UC scandal a couple years back where they're accepting more out-of-state and international students. So do you think this is true even now? And do you think this will change or that?
Well, it definitely is not now because we locked them out of the US during COVID. So we had a huge reprieve and a lot more US students got in because of it. There was a huge advantage. But now the borders are opening back up. And so this is definitely going to be a competitive situation again. But I will tell you, colleges are under the microscope. There's a lot of people watching them to make sure that they are being fair and offering opportunity, not just to students who are paying more money. So you just have to understand times have changed. There's ways for people to investigate. Back in the day, it just was kind of hush hush.
Got it. Well said. Thank you, Shellee. Well, that's it for today for episode 21 of Weekly Dose of High School. Hope you guys enjoyed listening to Shellee speak about the importance of scholarships and financial aid during the college admission process.
Also, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or on YouTube. We're on all those platforms. We upload weekly episodes, so make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an upload. Until then, take it easy.